Hi guys, welcome to another Stitch With Me video, or as I said in my last FlossTube video, a Bling With Me video. My name is Sarah, otherwise known as Little Snips. There's my hand, hello. And yeah, this is, I guess I have to qualify myself, or quantify myself, no, qualify, that was the right word. I have to qualify myself as a gatecrasher for now, I guess, to coin Letitia's phrase. I have not picked a specific day that I will do Bling With Me videos. I am going to kind of do them when I do them. So they may be on Fridays like today. Today is Friday, January 12th. They may be on other days. It just depends on when I have the time and the means to do the video. So I will post in the group when this is up and you guys can come and check it out if you're interested. Again, these are Bling With Me videos rather than Stitch With Me videos, which means I will be doing diamond painting as opposed to actual stitching. I am working on a HAED. This is Mini Divine Instinct. I have shown pictures of this before. I can insert a picture of this somewhere in the video if you want to know what it really looks like. But this is the pattern that I'm working on because I don't know where my cover sheet is at the moment. Sorry about that. A couple of things. Last time I did a diamond tube video, last time I did a Stitch With Me video, which is 2 videos ago if you want to look back in my feed, I started using one of these tools. This is a, as you can see on the tool itself, it is a pick-me-up tool. Sorry about the glare, I'm trying to light this as best I can on a overcast day. But this is a pick-me-up tool. It is made by Silhouette, and it is, I think, really, it's a paper crafting tool, scrapbooking tool. It has some tacky glue on in the tip here, some, what's it called? And I did the mouth sound again, I apologize. It's like blue tack, obviously, except it's white. But it's tacky glue type substance. It's kind of like a soft eraser, or a stretchable eraser if you're familiar with those. But it's glue and it helps pick things up and then move them around and tack them down to other things, place them on other things. So I bought this because it was recommended as a diamond painting tool. And the last time I tried to use it, I didn't have much success because I really didn't know what I was doing. I have had a few tips from people on my channel, which are very helpful. Kaz Ad, I believe, is one of the names, and Debbie, I'm sorry I don't remember your last name at the moment because I'm not looking at that screen, but Debbie offered me some fantastic suggestions and tips on how to use the tool, and I can now say that I am more familiar with it. It's not ideal, or rather, I am still not absolutely 100% great with it. I'm used to my little pink pen and my stick of glue chewing gum, but I'm working on this. The trick, I guess, with this tool is that all of the glue, again, is stored in the tip of this tool. If you tighten this cap too much, the glue squeezes out. That's how you advance the glue or get more glue out of it. And it's, as you saw in my last video, if you watched it, if there's too much glue sticking out, the tiles stick to the tool. You can't get them to stick down on the canvas, and it becomes a pain. So I went back to using my pink pen last time. But I have discovered, and Kelly Bell also helped me with this, if you scrape most of the glue off of the end, it just becomes sticky enough to pick up the tiles, and you can place them where you want them. The other thing that Debbie told me that I didn't know about this tool, which is pretty interesting, you see the other end of this, and I mentioned that I thought I would probably use this tapered end as a way to push tiles around or scrape them off the canvas if they got stuck. Well, Debbie mentioned that this thing comes out, which I didn't realize, didn't know. It doesn't say anything on the packaging about you being able to take this end off or out. It doesn't really say a lot about how you're supposed to use this tool. But this tapered end actually screws out, which, again, I didn't know that. But I'm going to show you, so if you try this tool, you will know. This piece unscrews. And as well as the tapered end, which let me see if I can put this against my hand. Nope, that's probably not going to make much of a difference. But there's a tapered end, like I said, that you can push the tiles around with. There's also a super pointy end. So this is good for cleaning out the tip of the tool. It's good for if you get some of the tack in between your tiles. It's good for scraping that out of the tack. It's another useful piece of the tool that I didn't know was there. So thank you again, Debbie, for pointing that out. It did take me a while, I will say, to be able to actually unscrew this thing, because when they pack it, they make sure everything is nice and tight and sticking where it's supposed to, or staying where it's supposed to be. So if you get one of these tools, and they're not expensive. I think this was $7 on Amazon. So it's not, a couple of pennies, but it's cheaper than, I don't know. It's not that expensive, at least not in my opinion. So if you want to experiment with one of these, they're on Amazon. It's called, again, a silhouette pick-me-up tool. So if you experiment with that, play with it, fight with the tightness of the screws on the thing to get the end undone, and experiment. It's all about experimenting. The other thing I thought I would do is bring over some of the actual packets of tiles, because I need to refill some of my containers. So diamond painting packets usually come in bags like this, little plastic individual bags. I believe that they say that in a bag this size there are about 250 little tiles. So depending on the size of your project, you're going to have many of these bags. For this particular project, because as you can see, it's lots of shades of blue and a lot of navy blue, which is this 939 and 823. I think I got a couple hundred packets of both of these colors in my kit, at least in my tile kit for this pattern. So depending on the number of colors will depend on the number of packets you get. There are ways to calculate that. If you're interested in that, you can check that out in the HAED diamond painting group, which I will link in the information below again, or you can, ask me and I will do my best to help you. But I need to refill some packets before I can do huge segments on this, so I thought I would bring these over and show you. Again, and show you, as I have said several times, the tiles. The nice part about these tiles, and the reason that we can use them to do things like HAED diamond painting, is that if you can read, I'm trying to find the right angle where you can see that, and putting it over the color is probably helpful, and trying not to glare. I need to get a better setup for doing these videos, guys. I got to figure this out. But if you can read that number or the one above it, it says 823. This is the equivalent of DMC 823. Again, like I said, the navy blue background. The background on this pattern is 939. You can see on this packet that it says 939. So the tiles, the resin tiles, correlate with the DMC floss colors, which is really handy. I don't know if they've done packets or if they've made tiles for the new floss colors. I would hope so, because patterns are starting to come out that use the new colors, and it would be nice to be able to continue to get tiles that match, but I don't know if they've done it. Sadly, excuse me, I need to open this packet, so I might have to, nope, I got it with my fingers, never mind. I was going to say you might hear me mumble because I might have to open it with my teeth, but I got it with my fingers, and then I spilled tiles everywhere. That's fun. There is not a lot of conversation that happens around this craft. I mean, there are some diamond painting groups on Facebook. Most notably for us, or for me, there is the HAED diamond painting group. And so you can go and ask questions about diamond painting in general, or HAED diamond painting in particular. But there's not a lot of discussion about this particular craft, at least not in groups that I have found, or widely discussed on the internet. And that time I did have to use my teeth. Apologies for the gap in conversation there. At least not in groups that are in English. Diamond painting is much more popular, I think, in China, in Japan, in Southeast Asian countries, and in places like the Ukraine and Russia and Eastern Europe. It is a craft that has been introduced, obviously, in America. It is, I don't want to say it's becoming, well, it is becoming more popular, but I don't want to say it's becoming wildly popular. It's not like cross-stitching, where we have many designers and companies that are releasing patterns. The majority of the supplies that you can get for diamond painting actually come from China, regardless of whether you buy them from the UK or Australia or Amazon, or whether you go to China directly. The majority of these supplies are actually coming from China. They have the means and the facilities to mainly to make the tiles, to make the resin tiles, but also to produce the canvas, and in many cases, although the legality of the patterns is questionable, in many cases they have the means to produce the kits as well. So, like I said, if you do not have to buy things through China if you're not comfortable with that, but if you are buying diamond painting kits, the odds are pretty good that your stuff is coming from China anyway, regardless of where you buy them from. So, enough of that, I don't know, disclaimer, warning, informational segment. If you can hear the crinkling, I apologize for that. I know it bothers some people, but with plastic packets, there's not a lot I can do about the crinkle. So once I get this set up and get the tiles in their individual little containers so I don't throw them all over my table, I will go ahead and get started doing actual work again. I hope you guys are having a good start to your new year. I hope you are enjoying the Friday off the grid videos. I know that today, the 12th, Carolyn has set up an actual stitch-in, virtual stitch-in, that is scheduled for, or from 6 p.m. to midnight today. There is an informational, no, I'm sorry. It was in, I think, her last video. Well, I'm not sure she actually made a video about this. She did make an introductory video about the Friday off the grid stitching idea and parties. Well, this is taking me longer than I wanted it to. Sorry, guys. But if you want information about the Friday off the grid thing and a list of all of the people who are making videos, you can find that on the Friday off the grid Facebook group, which I will link in the information below again. Last packet. I'm trying. It's always easier to do things in your mind than it is in real life, especially when you're trying to do it in front of or behind or beside the camera. Really, if you guys could see the setup that I have going on here and how I have the camera pointed at the canvas, you would probably laugh or cover your face in shame because it's pretty janky. I need to invest in a tripod or something like that because that would make this so much easier. But I haven't done that yet. So until then, you get my leaning tower of things to balance a camera on, which I'm not going to show you because I'd have to move the camera, which would disrupt the whole filming process and probably make me feel really silly. And I try to avoid feeling silly when I can. I don't mind being amusing. I don't mind amusing people. Actually, I like to amuse people, but silly is a whole different thing. And I just dumped more tiles where I don't want them. So, one more second, because in my container, I have a giant Sterilite tub that I keep all of my diamond painting stuff in to try to keep it somewhat contained. And I discovered that some of the tiles from my round set of tiles, because I do have patterns that use both round and square tiles, some of my round tiles popped open at some point in the past. I'm not exactly sure when, but they're all over the bottom of my tote, and they're mixed now, which means I don't know which color is which. And excuse the sound of my chair moving. And separating them is going to be next to impossible, so that's kind of disappointing. But I now have the tiles set up. I can now start actually diamond painting, so you guys can see what I do today. So if, as you can tell, I hope, or maybe, if you watched my last diamond painting video, you can see that I've added a couple more squares. I finished a couple more squares in this pattern. This is still the first page. I still haven't progressed a lot, but I have moved forward. So this is still the first page of the Mini Divine Instinct pattern. I am at the end of the 4th column. So this little section, if you see this little chunk that's missing, that is the last 5 columns, 10 rows of the 4th row of the pattern on the first page. So that's what I'm going to work on for now. That requires some 823, so let me get some tiles. Have you guys been enjoying the year in review whip parade finish parades that people are putting on their floss tube videos? It is that time of year. I did a year in review video, my last floss tube video, if you're interested in seeing that or watching that. You can actually see my face, go figure. And you get to hear my year in review, and I show you what I've been working on so far this year or since my last floss tube video. But a lot of people are doing them. I know Michelle Bendy and Ginger Gerald did a shared year in review video, which was pretty fun. They split that up between both of their channels. So you see the first part on Michelle's channel and then the second part on Gerald's channel, and they answer the questions together, which I admit would probably make it more interesting for, especially for viewers, but more interesting to answer those questions because it's not just one person giving you their opinions. You get to see their back and forth. You get to see them comment on one another's progress and achievements and opinions for the year of 2017, which is interesting. Besides, we all like them, right? We all like Gerald and Michelle and want to watch what they have to say. But I know a lot of people have done them. I know I think Letitia has done a year in review or a year of whips kind of thing. And sometimes they get combined with the year of whips too. Meaning plans for 2018, people who are actually participating in Melanie Watkins' year of whips for 2018, which I am going to do. I am not making a video for my whips, but I did post an album in the group, so I will link her group in the information below as well, in case you're wondering or curious, or if you are participating yourself. The idea behind that being that you find things that you would like to focus on. It's sort of a year of focus on a finish, I guess. You find things that you would like to focus on, projects that you would like to at least make progress on and ideally finish. If you are interested in doing the official year of whips, where you are eligible to be entered in a drawing at the end of the year, you have to have at least 15 whips for the year of 2018 and finish at least half of them. Now, what a finish means depends on the project that you're working on. So if you're working on a full coverage piece, that means finishing pages, each page finish on a full coverage piece, as long as it's more than 8 pages long in totality. The whole thing is more than 8 pages. Finishing a page counts as an individual finish, so yeah, it's pretty interesting. I have set myself, I'm not going to call them necessarily like exceptionally reasonable. I've set myself some goals that I think I can achieve in the year, and that's sort of the point as well, to try to not set goals that you don't think you're going to make, but things that you think you can possibly make. So page finishes, if you have smaller projects, if you have projects that are relatively or are already started that you feel like you can finish in the year of 2018, you can add those. And I think the real point of the group and the event itself is to have support, to have a cheering section, if you will, for getting things done. I mean, I know that a lot of us are, I was going to say serial starters, and that's not, I don't think that's what I meant. I know a lot of us start a lot of things. A lot of us go through start-itis, and we have a lot more projects on the go than we actually finish. Unless you're somebody like Michelle who does a lot of lovely ATCs and things like that and finishes those and gets to record an amazing number of finishes for the year. Seriously, go watch her video and listen to the number of starts, not only starts, but starts and finishes that she has had for the year of 2017. I'm impressed. Even if I was stitching solely smalls, which I'm not, I could not get anywhere near her numbers, so I'm truly impressed. But yeah, I think the majority of the reason to do the year of whips is for the support and the camaraderie of other people who are doing the year of whips with you. So, like I said, as you can see, I figured out a little bit more how to use this tool. I'm still getting used to it. I definitely was sold on the pink pen and stick of gum glue thing, and that's how I did the majority of the diamond painting that I've done before now, which is not to say that I've done a lot. This will be my 5th diamond tube video. So the 5th video I've made about, actually I think I take that back. I think it's my 6th, because I think I did one that was not labeled a diamond tube video. But I haven't done a lot of videos about diamond painting. This idea of Bling with me videos, where I actually paint on camera while you're watching, will increase my number dramatically, I think, which is good because I like the craft. I like diamond painting. And real quick, I'm going to show you, this is what I meant. The tip does come undone, so you basically have to figure out how much you can tighten it. Like, I can tighten it about half a twist and still be okay. If you tighten it more than that, as I said earlier, it advances the glue that is in the pen, and then you run into a messy problem. And you end up having to fix everything because you can't get the tiles to come off the end of the pen. So, what was I saying? Oh, I do like the craft. I started doing it because it was billed as a way to do cross-stitch patterns, particularly HAEDs, because as we know, HAEDs can take quite a while. It was touted as a way to do diamond paintings more quickly than doing them with thread and fabric. And having now worked on some HAEDs, because I started these before I had really done much in the way of stitching on HAEDs either. I had been working on one, I think, but I'd had some trouble with that. I started on a fabric that was too small, and then it turned out to be a project that I was intending to give to my husband, and he doesn't like the way that HAEDs look. He is not a HAED fan, so I scrapped the idea of doing that particular project for him. So I think I was really excited by the concept of a craft that you could do HAEDs, you could complete HAEDs in less time than it takes to make a traditional fabric and thread HAED. And having now worked on HAEDs, having now done some additional diamond painting, I think I can say that yes, it is probably true that it is faster to do HAEDs in diamond painting. If I were stitching this, I probably would not have completed this much of the block or of this section in the amount of time it's taking me to do it while you're watching. But, that said, if you are not... Let me back up. This is not something that you can do in a couple of hours, particularly on the scale of a HAED. I mean, I discussed in my last video, I think I talked about the fact that this is a big canvas, and this is not even the largest of the canvases. So, this is a mini, which means that obviously it's smaller than a normal-sized HAED pattern. There are people who are working on full-sized HAEDs, and there are even people who have dared to try to do supersize HAEDs. Supersize HAEDs, as you may or may not know, are as on one dimension or the other, either height or width, are as wide a project as Michelle can design them, which means that either in height or width, they are 999 stitches. They're huge. Done on 25 count fabric, they are huge. Remember, or if you have not heard me say this before, the HAED patterns are designed for 25 count, or rather they are displayed most often. The examples, the mock-ups on the website are shown on 25 count fabric. So the dimensions are given in 25 count fabric. Diamond painting canvases, the blank canvas is basically a 10 count canvas. So if something is huge as a 25 count, imagine how much bigger it is in 10 count. So there are people who are trying to do supersized diamond paintings. You can, in some cases, and to be honest with you, sometimes you can't get a canvas that's that big. There is a limit to the size of the canvas that you can get, that can be produced. I don't remember what that is right now, but there is a limit to it. So some things, if you're interested in trying to do a supersize, you may not be able to do, because the canvas may not be available in that particular size. But you can do normal size HAEDs. But they're big. They are really big. We're talking, impressive piece on a blank wall big. And anything at that size, even if it's faster to do it as a diamond painting than it is to do it in stitching, is still going to take you time. If you get some of the smaller kits, like if you order them from Amazon or what have you, some of the smaller kits, especially if you get a partial coverage piece, which means that there is a printed, part of the design is printed on the canvas already, and the part that you attach the diamonds to is smaller, less complicated. Even if you go for one of those, you may be able to spend a dedicated afternoon, evening, whatever time you have, and you may be able to get one of those finished in a day or two. But I've found, even with my small patterns, my small kits, I've found that it takes a significant amount of time to do these. So it's not, I don't know, it's faster, but it's not, you're not going to be through a pattern in an hour probably, unless it's extremely partial, meaning you have to do, you have to make the designs on a painting or on a picture bling with rhinestones or something like that, and the rest of it is already done for you. Then you might be able to do it in an hour or so, but yeah, not been my experience that you can finish them super fast. But faster than thread and fabric? Probably. The other part of doing this on camera, in front of the camera, behind the camera, however you want to refer to it, is that I'm trying to be mindful of not sticking my head in the camera, making sure that you can see what I'm doing, all those fun things that everybody who makes a Stitch With Me video has to think about. I hope that the angle on this is good for you. I would love to be able to show it to you more closely and to be not at quite the angle that it's at right now. Again, I need to figure out a tripod situation or I'm not sure. How do you guys, if you are watching this and you also make Stitch With Me videos, what equipment do you use? Do you have a tripod? Do you attach your camera to your light? Do you have I don't know, are you wearing your camera on your head? Because some of it looks like you are. I know you're not, probably, because the camera doesn't move when you do. But, oof. Go back where you belong. Go back where you belong. Use that little tapered end to kind of push him back. And then we'll push you down again so you stick where you're supposed to be. One of the questions, the question I asked was, how do you film? So if you do make Stitch With Me videos and you would feel like sharing your information, you can message me or you can leave a comment below or you know, I'm sure my email address is out there on one of my FlossTube videos somewhere. You can email me, or you can get me through Instagram. I am Little Snips on Instagram, or Lil Snips, Lil Snips on Instagram. You know, all that kind of fun stuff. Right, so what was I going to say? I was going to say something, and I can't remember what. That's disappointing. Because I like to think it would have been a good comment. What was I talking about? Putting things back with the tapered end. I don't know. I have this philosophy that if it's important and you forget it at some point, so you're in the process of saying something, for whatever reason, you forget what you were going to say, and I just pushed that up, sorry for moving the canvas. Yes, I have a tape measure holding it down because I'm classy like that. I have a theory that if you say something or you're trying to say something and you forget it, if it's important, it will come back to you. And I know that's not a unique philosophy. The way I always thought of it, and the way I explained that, at least my interpretation of that to my mother back in the day, was I think of thoughts as though they're on an old school tape recorder. You may be too young to remember cassette tapes, which is terrifying to say, but if you don't remember cassette tapes, just go with me on this. But the way I explained it to my mother was that I felt like thoughts sort of ran on a cassette tape. And if you recall, there were tape recorders that had a neat feature in that it would flip the tape for you, basically. You would get to the end of side A on the cassette, and without having to change the cassette tape, without having to actually open the tape recorder and flip it over yourself, when the tape ran out, the tape recorder would basically flip. It would hit the end of the tape, and it would start playing it backward. So it would play the other side of the tape, so it automatically reversed the tape. But if you didn't stop the tape, and you let that second side play all the way to the end, it would flip it again, and you would get side A again. So it would play side A, it would flip to side B, and then it would flip back to side A. And it would just do that ad nauseum until you stop the tape. So the way I explained it to my mother was that I felt like tapes played, or thoughts played on a tape recorder. And so if you forgot something, all you had to do, rather than panic about what you'd forgotten to say or what you meant to say or the thought that escaped you, all you had to do was wait for the tape to flip over, and eventually it would come back again. I still think that's a good explanation of how my thought process works anyway. My mother seemed to like it. Of course, mothers are supposed to like the things you say most of the time, right? So she might have just been humoring me, but it works for me. So what else should we talk about? If you heard the dinging in the background, that was my washing machine. My washing machine does not have the same musical alarm that Ginger Gerald's does, that we heard in one of his recent videos. Relatively recent videos, since I tend to be behind when I watch FlossTube. But it does play music, which is nicer than the annoying brrrr that it used to be. But what else should we talk about? What else is there to talk about? Other than things that I am going to avoid talking about because we are relaxing with our stitching and I would like to relax while I'm diamond painting. Oh, the clicking. The clicking is the sound of, I've shown you these before, my containers for my tiles, the little flower containers that are ideally for, and before I flip this over, I'm going to make sure these are all closed. They're ideally for beads, but they work for diamond tiles too, the resin tiles. But the clicking you're hearing is me closing the tops of the containers. And as you can see, I still get little individual tiles that pop out every once in a while. So that's the thing. You know, we have the conversation about needle threaders versus floss licking. And people come down on both sides of that argument, whether it's okay to lick your floss, excuse me, whether you should use a needle threader, all that sort of thing. Well, the way that I pick up diamond tiles is I lick the tip of my finger just a little bit. No, I don't like slobber all over it, but I just lick it a little bit, and then I stick my finger into my container of tiles, and I pick up some tiles. Now, I could probably use a sponge with some water on it, and that would probably be, you know, some people are going to say that would be more sanitary. The thing with the resin tiles is that saliva is never going to erode these tiles. They're plastic. So, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say never. I guess in theory, it could eventually, one day, many decades, probably centuries down the road, or if you have particularly acidic saliva for whatever reason, I guess eventually saliva could erode the plastic and make it, I don't know, fall off of the canvas or whatever. But I don't think it's really going to do much damage in the short term, at least not for the lifetime of what I expect a diamond painting to last. I don't think it's going to hurt it. But I think there are people who would find that disgusting. I'm sure there are people who, like I said, use a sponge or something like that. I know that there are people who pick them up just with tweezers. I'm not that talented. If I try to use tweezers, and I admire the heck out of those of you who diamond paint with tweezers, I really do. If I use tweezers to pick up diamonds, the tiles, I end up basically shooting tiles across the room. I don't know if it's that I grip them too tightly or I don't grip them tightly enough, but yeah, I end up basically pinging them off the wall across the room, which doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't put diamonds on the canvas. It leaves things lying around on the floor for my cats to eat, which I would prefer not to do. So yeah. If you are a diamond painter and you have an opinion on that, or if you are thinking about diamond painting and have an opinion on how you might pick up the little tiny squares, because, excuse my computer making an alarm. I get notifications just like everybody. Yeah. Can you see that tiny little speck on the end of my finger? It looks very blurry to me. So, but usually when I say things look blurry on my videos and then I go back and watch the video, they're not that blurry. Anyway, that little square on the end of my finger is the size of the diamond tile. 2.5 centimeters square. So, yeah, they're hard to pick up. So if you have an opinion on whether you diamond paint or you're thinking about diamond painting, if you have an opinion on how you would pick those up, feel free to share that in the comments as well. I'm always interested to hear how people do things differently than I do. Okay, one more color and I am done with that section. And I will be done with that row on the pattern. Let's see, what color do I need? I need 3765. There was a discussion, by the way, if you are interested again in diamond painting and particularly in using HAED patterns to do diamond paintings. There was a time when Michelle, who is the woman who charts all of the Heaven and Earth designs, was thinking about possibly selling diamond painting kits on the website. Because a lot of us, as I said, a lot of us do like to use the HAED patterns to do, or not a lot of us, but several of us, like to use HAED patterns to make projects. And in order to make sure that the artists are being fairly paid, to make sure that the kits are on the up and up, Michelle thought about doing, or rather selling, kits from the HAED website. and has unfortunately decided that that is not feasible. I thought about it as well. We have a couple of companies we have one company, I should say. We have a company in the States who sells diamond painting kits. She, as I said at the beginning of the video, she gets her supplies from China just like everybody else. She stores them in the States, which makes shipping to people who are in the States faster in theory. But her supplies are coming from China just like everybody else's, so she is not manufacturing them here. But I did think about it because at the time, I don't know whether she didn't exist or we just didn't know about her. But at the time, we didn't think that there was anybody in the United States who was distributing diamond painting supplies. In order to be competitive at all, you have to have the storage for, and that is that row complete. Ta-da! All done. So now I'm going to go through here and try to straighten up this line just a little bit. I said before that the edges, if you can tell, it's going to be probably going to be hard to see, but the edge wobbles just a little bit. Once everything is in, and part of the satisfaction of doing diamond painting is there's a moment where all of the tiles or most of the tiles are in and you can press them down and hear and feel them click into place. Once the whole project is done, the whole pattern is finished, the lines should be more or less straight. They will adjust a little bit as you fit more tiles in. Some people like to use a ruler on the first few lines, like this side where you start. They like to use a ruler and line it up against the ruler just to make sure that it's truly straight. I don't do that. It's too fussy for me because I think that this line is relatively straight and I'm okay with the tiny little wobble that's in there. Same thing with the top line. I'm okay with the tiny little wobble on the top line. Once it's stretched over a canvas, which I think is how I'm going to finish this, once it's stretched over a canvas, it's probably not going to show up that much. Anyway, like I was saying, in order to have it be feasible to distribute diamond painting things, you need a lot of storage space. Ideally, you need a massive printer in order to be able to print the canvas. The canvas is basically, you pull this down a little bit. As you can see, it's gridded. So it's kind of like Magic Guide or Magic Grid fabric canvas for cross-stitching. It's already gridded for you. Basically, you need to print the canvas. So this is, the material is actually canvas. It's actually fabric. It's a relatively, it's flexible, but it's not super thin, but it is fabric. And you need to print the grid on the fabric and then cover it with a giant sheet of very sticky, again, I'll show you by sticking my finger to it, very sticky double-sided substance. You lay the double-sided substance down, you then put this peel-away paper on it. I did the mouth thing again, I apologize. You put this peel-away paper on it, and yeah, then you can use it for your cross-stitch patterns and things like that. So in order to be able to make these, you need to have a source for the canvas. You need to be able to have a printer that's big enough to print whatever size canvas you need. And then you need the storage space for the tiles. That's the big thing, I think. Well, okay, let me step back again. The big thing is that you need to be able to print the tiles, to make the tiles. Now, 3D printers are not that expensive. You can get a relatively large 3D printer, especially if you're a business and you have the funds to do this. You can get a relatively large 3D printer. You can print resin tiles all day and all night. The problem is finding the recipes, I guess is what we call them, the recipes for the colors. Because like I said, the tiles are DMC colored tiles. You need to have the resin to begin with, but you need to have the color recipe in order to make the right colors as well, so that they match your DMC tiles. Now, if you don't have that, if you don't have the recipe, or you don't have the 3D printer or the interest in printing the tiles, you can buy the tiles from China, but you still need the storage space in order to, well, store them. That's a lot. So, Michelle has decided that it is not financially feasible for her to do that. And as sad as that is, as much as I would love to be able to buy a diamond painting kit from Heaven and Earth Designs directly as opposed to going through China, I totally understand what Michelle is saying. Also, she said she would have to hire somebody, an entire new person, in order to have the staff to be able to kit these things up. So, anyway, like I said, as you can see, I finished that row. That was a tiny little bit of stitching, or rather diamond painting. I set a timer so that my video wouldn't be too long, and my timer is about to run out because I ramble, and that's what I do. So, rather than continuing to diamond paint, I think I will go ahead and sign off. I know it wasn't all that exciting. You got to see the little ear, more of the ear form, so that's interesting, I hope. You got to see a better view of, I hope, at least I think it's a better view, better angle on where I am as a whole. I will insert a picture of the entire thing here at the end so you can see what it's going to look like again. And I will see you again next week. Maybe on Friday, maybe not on Friday. If you are joining the stitch-in, I hope you have a good time stitching and watching videos. And yeah, have good stitchy time. Bye.